Welcome back, my Duelist friends. Casual Duelist here, and today I've got the third last final of the historical builds for the Edison format from the last tournament, the last Shonen Jump Championship that was in Edison, New Jersey. And I asked you guys to guess last time. If you guys guessed, I was going to be building the Gladiator Beasts, 5th place from Jake Mattern. Well, then give yourself a pat on the back and a high five for me, because that means you got it right. If you didn't, oh well, no harm, no foul. As seems to be going, I am missing one card, and again, it's out of the extra deck, and it's one I'm missing that seems to be for like no reason. So we're going to cover the missing card first. I'm missing a copy of the Magical Landroid. Crazy enough, it's just a 5-star synchro, 24/17, non-specific to what it makes. During every end phase, gain 600 health per psychic you control. Generally, it's just a 1. It's just a good 5-star. I think it was like the tech 5-star for the longest time. Is what it is. Now, for the Gladiator Beasts, let's get into it. I want to say this was a 42 card deck. Don't quote me. But this is verbatim his main and side. So that's what we're going to be or main and extra deck. That's what we're going to be going over. So first card today is going to be 2 copies Elemental Hero Prisma. Prisma has a very special ability where it allows us to go into our extra deck, and it doesn't matter if I show you a card or not. We go into the extra deck, we find a fusion monster card, we find a name on the card like this, Lakari. We'll send a copy of the named card from our main deck to the discard pile, and in doing so, we will be changing the name of the card on the field to that name. Now, generally, we don't use Heraklinos for this effect. We actually use Gyazarus. We want to find the name Bestiari. Bestiari was limited to 1 for the longest time period, and this was one of the ban lists where it was that. And so we just want to be able to go ahead and get into as many times as we can, getting into Gyazarus and even Gyazarus loops. Next up, we're going to be using a copy of Elemental Hero Stratos, and I thought that this art was way cooler than the other one, even though this art didn't exist back then, so we're just going with it. When is normal or special summoned, you get to choose and activate one of the following. You can either add 1 hero monster from the deck to the hand, or you can destroy spell traps on the field up to the number of hero monsters you control, not counting this card. So again, generally, it's just another tutor. It's another search to get off to the Prisma. Having a little bit of a focus issue here. And moving into the Gladiator Beasts. First one we're going to play is 1 copy Bestiari, because the ban list states so. When is special summoned through the effect of another GB, target a spell trap on the field, destroy target at end of battle phase. If attacked or was attacked, shuffle back to deck, special summon a different name. Very cool. We're going to double up on Darius. Darius was very cool back then. When special summoned through the effect of a GB, you get to target another GB in grave, special summon target with its effects negated, and that card gets shuffled into the deck when this card leaves the field. At the end of the battle phase, if it was attacked or got attacked or was attacked, shuffle back to deck, special summon a different name. And again, almost all the Gladiator Beasts are going to share that last effect where they special summon somebody who is not them. Equest. When special summoned by effective GB, add 1 GB card from grave to hand, and again, can swap out for somebody with a different name. Hoplimus is our defender. When special summoned by the effect of a GB, his original defense is treated as 24, and this was very, very important during the time period of Monarchs. This would allow him to withstand a hit from any Monarch card. Again, he can return and summon a different name. Next up, 2 copies Lakari. He's our boy Tiger. When he is special summoned through the effect of a GB, his original attack is treated as 2100. When he swaps, he chooses for a different name. Murmelo. When Murmelo special summons through the effect of a GB, we get to destroy a face-up monster card. And again, at the end of the battle phase, if he survives battle, we get to go ahead and play another name. 1 copy Retiari. And I was a little unsure about this, but I went back and I checked it. It's definitely allowed. Obviously, they weren't going to put it on the website if it wasn't allowed. When special summoned, Retiari goes ahead and removes 1 card from the opponent's graveyard from play, then swaps for a different name. and 1 copy Secutor. Now, Secutor is probably my favorite, number 1, because he's just a goofy-looking toad with a wrist rocket or shoulder rockets, and 2, his effect is probably one of the best ones. If special summoned by the effect of a GB, he gains the following effect. This was then at the end of any battle phase in which this card attacks or it does attack, you get to special summon. So when he survives, he doesn't swap, but he'll pull out 2 other names that are not his own. And again, it allows you to pull into, like you can pull into Lucari and Bestiari, or you could go Bestiari, Murmelo, destroy a spell trap and a face-up monster on the opponent's side, then go into Gozerus and destroy another 2 cards, whatever you want. But again, at 1, I feel like he's searchable enough. You only go to him when you actually need him, as is the gimmick here. 1 Morphing Jar, and again, this is great because, again, this deck being a little grindy, it wants to be a little slow. Being able to flip, drop hand, and draw new is just amazing. If your opponent's picking and choosing cards, this helps disrupt them. But everybody basically gets a fresh hand. So as long as you can trigger this when you want it to be triggered, you're good. You're golden. And then last monster, we're going to use 3 copies of Test Tiger. As long as a Gladiator Beast exists on the field, these can special summon from the hand. You can tribute this card to return 1 Gladiator Beast back to the deck, special summon another one from the deck, and treat it as though it were the summoning effect of a Gladiator Beast. You can send the same monster back to pull the same card with Test Tiger. So if you did special summon Bestiari, you could go ahead, go into Test Tiger, and pop that in and out of the deck real quick to get the back row gone. Test Tiger is probably the only one like this. Mid-game, it's really good pairing it off with Darius to body extra cards to field just real quick, and just overall good. That said, go ahead, take the pause notes or screen cap. I'm going to go ahead and, because there's a lot to dump when it comes to the spell traps. The monsters are pretty easy, but I want a fresh field for that. So I'll be right back in just a moment. All right, and I'm back. And you guys probably noticed I did move the mat just a little bit. Not trying to show you guys the wooden table, but wanted to have as much space as possible. Now remember, all of our GBs, our Glads, they're all going to be able to tag out if they survive a combat. So with that in mind, these spell traps make sense. First up, 3 copies, Book of Moon. Okay, it's a good card. It's a great card. You guys already know why I play this. You guys know that I had to put this in here because that's the guy's list. I mean, obviously he did well. He placed 5th in the last jump tournament with the most players. So good card is good card for a good reason. Second, a single copy Cold Wave. This card can only be activated at the start of main phase 1. And again, we had an effect like this all the way back in Pharaoh's Servant, which is like 4th or 5th set of the game. So very early on, we had cards like, I think Extravagance is the new one like this, where it has to be the first move or it's not. Until the end of your next turn, neither player can activate or set any, it's supposed to say spell or trap. This is very old. This is an old Magic card. But it would be errated as spells and traps. And the whole purpose is, generally speaking, you've already got your back row set up. You're just doing this to really just kind of mess with your opponent and kind of take 2/3 of the game out of the game. And back then, this was more important. Next up, 2 copies Enemy Controller. We're only going to be interested in one effect. However, it's good to know that you have both because, again, you're playing in a tournament. It's a quick play. There's tactics that we would use now with this card that we did not have back then because we just didn't think like that. Essentially, we're going to always move an opponent's monster's battle position, and that's the move we want. However, that said, we can also tribute one of our monsters and actually just take control of one of their cards for a turn. And depending on how Synchro works out, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, no tuners in the main deck, okay? There's no tuners in the main deck. But you could tell this duelist actually paid attention to his cards. You'll see in a minute. It's a good card, great card. Again, single MST is always good. And single reinforcement of the army. And again, this is just because we've got 3 warriors, and one of them's kind of important. And honestly speaking, Stratos is almost a reinforcement of the army that you summon. So it is what it is. Moving into the traps. Again, Bottomless Trap Hole finds its home here. 2 copies, good card, great card. Call of the Haunted. This is even more important in this deck, I think, because of the way Bestiari works for Gozerus, and we'll go over that when we get to the extra deck. 2 copies Compulse. 2 copies of Compulse is amazing. Compulsory Evacuation Device just allows you to just yeet an opponent's monster. I mean, you could yeet one of your own, but like you really just launch that card back into their hand and get it out of your way. It stops your monster from getting ran over. It may be a targeting effect, but it's not a destruction effect, so we get around all the Stardust stuff. Just good all-round card. 3 Deep Prisons, pretty much the same thing. Again, we get away from the wording of destroy and we go straight to banish. This helps with Stardust. And again, it helps with like spot treating the opponent's monsters. You'll notice that we didn't have a Heavy Storm. This Duelist opted for 3 Dust Tornadoes. And again, Dust Tornado is very good because Dust Tornado means on our opponent's turn, we can set Call of the Haunted and we can have that primed for our own turn when we need to go into more fusions. So again, very well thought out. This deck is, I guess it surprises me that it didn't place higher that day. But depending on how tired Jake may have been, depending on the hands that were drawn, this deck could get outplayed. But like just for these reasons, these technical reasons, this is like my favorite of the decks on the list. Next up, 2 GB War Chariots. And again, having access to counter traps that are specific to your deck was crazy back then. Activate while you control a Gladiator Beast. Negate the activation of effect monsters, negate, and destroy. So again, just, yeah, I see that you're going to do that. Yeah, no, just no. And then you go back into Gladiator Beast Equist, and you remember that this has the name Gladiator Beast in the title, and it's a card, therefore retrievable from the graveyard. Insane, right? 1 copy Solemn Judgment, because again, good cards come at a great cost. For half your points, you can negate a spell, trap, or summoning. And then not 1, but 2 Starlight Roads. Because again, this is a deck that's going to get hit. It's going to get hit with a lot of stuff. This deck does not like Lightning Vortex. This deck does not like Heavy Storm, taking away the back row. So again, a lot of the time you're going to look towards things like Starlight Road and just the free monster that you get for playing it on top of everything else, just like that cherry on the top of the sundae. And then the last card, Trap Dust Shoot. This used to be one of my favorite side deck techs. If you have a deck that can main it, obviously you should always play it. The way this works, activate when your opponent has 4 or more cards in the hand. Now remember, we could set them up with that morphing jar. Look at the opponent's hand, select a monster, send it back to their deck, shuffle it. On the worst case scenario, your opponent picks 5 spell traps, and now you know their whole hand. Okay? Knowledge is power, and it helps you tailor the plays of a deck that literally changes monsters out like every battle phase and doesn't stay static. So it really feeds into like what makes this deck unique. Again, just real quick, screenshot or pause with notes, and I'll be back with the extra deck minus that magical android. So just one more second. All right, just real quick, and I want to make mention, because again, I'm not going to go over the whole side deck here, but if we were to talk about it real quick, like the bullet points are second Hoplimus, a bunch of Noblemen of Crossout because of the fact that you're going to send your opponent to defense mode, a pair of Cyber Dragons, and pulling the rug, Trap Hole, some really good stuff. The reason I need to mention that is the Cyber Dragons. Knowing that it was going to be a lot of machines out there, he went ahead with 3 Chimeratech Fortress Dragons. Again, there was a limited need for this deck's extra deck, and so like I totally get this one. Okay. Next up is something we do have to talk about. It's 3 copies of Gozerus. Gozerus is a Gladiator Beast made up of Bestiari plus 1 other. Like all the fusions, what you'll do is you'll shuffle the material monsters from the field back into the deck to special summon this. You will not use polymerization when this one is special summoned. And you need to check that wording when this card is special summoned. You can do this off the Call of the Haunted as well. You can destroy up to 2 cards on field at the end of the battle phase if this card attacks or was attacked. You may return it to the extra deck to special summon 2 Gladiator beasts from the deck, with the exception of the name Bestiari, because this is, by extension, still Bestiari. They don't want you to be able to make this, break this, and then make it again. That's way too much destruction. So obviously perfectly well balanced. And again, you do want 3 because you're going to fall into things like Bottomless Trap Hole, where they're going to go ahead, they're going to do that. Bottomless Trap Hole, I mean, yeah, you get to resolve the Yor effect at the same time, but then you're going to lose the Gazarus altogether. There's a lot about it. Next up is my boy Heraklinos. And again, you're going to want to run 3 of these. This is going to be Lakari plus any 2 other names. This one does not go back into the extra deck, however. The monsters, the materials do shuffle back. But the way that this one works is you could discard a card from your hand to negate the activation of a spell or trap and destroy it. And this is essentially a quick effect before quick effects, because you can use this during either turn. So again, Heraklinos really getting out there, showing off big, and shutting stuff down. So pretty good. Next up, and I'm going to do the rest of this out of order so it makes sense. We're going to do 2 copies, Stardust Dragon. You got 2 Starlight Roads, so you got to have 2 Stardust Dragons. Again, for the most part, free summons all the time. And then we got to talk about the Synchros. So Magical Android would be our first. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this Ally of Justice Catastor sitting on my table. We're going to put him upside down. The reason we're doing this is it's a placeholder, because what you need to know is Magical Android was this duelist's 5-star. Okay? Keep this in mind. Moving up to 6 stars, they had a Goyo Guardian. Obvious reasons. 6-star, 28, able to take monsters back that it's beaten. If you defeat a Stardust Dragon from your opponent's side of the field, you can absolutely recruit it and its negation effect to your side. However, if it was played properly, they're going to be able to get it back, which is going to kind of drive a wedge in your plays. Next, B Rose, 7 stars. This is for destruction and the fact that it's 7 stars. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but it's a 5, 6, 7, so you know we got to have that's right, an 8-star. Colossal Fighter. Now, in this deck, Colossal Fighter is still going to be used as to like drag out that 1 or 2 tech Dark Arms. I don't remember if Dark Armed was allowed in this format. I've briefed over the ban list a few times, and I'm still getting familiar with it. So I do know that that's something Colossal Fighter used to do and do well. But he does stand to gain some power-ups, dependent on whether or not Prisma or Stratos find their way to the discard pile permanently. Same thing with Goyo Guardian, also being a warrior. It also means that we can also go back into any of those guys. Should Colossal Fighter take the L? And this may or may not prove useful with Prisma being able to become Bestiari in order to tag up to become Gazarus. But again, what the Duelist did was they built in a way to not only make sure, and this is the whole play with the enemy controller. This is why this play was so brilliant. This is why I love Jake's deck. His name's Jake Mattern. I just keep thinking he's Matt. With Jake's deck, the biggest thing I loved about it was the fact that enemy controller looked super innocent at first, because you're like, oh yeah, well, whatever. I'm just going to put it in defense mode so I could smack it, break it. I survived the battle, blah, 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 right? But really, he's looking at taking his opponent's tuners and having answers between 5, 6, 7, and 8-star. So again, he just made an all-star tag out of the enemy controller. I kind of wish he'd placed a bit higher than 5th, because he just barely didn't make the cut for the quarterfinals. But this is probably my favorite deck out of the lot. You guys, thank you for watching this. Unfortunately, this was painfully long, almost 20 minutes. It's going to be 20 minutes by the time I get done yapping. Thank you for watching. If you guys enjoyed this, if you guys want more of this, that's great. I'm into it. I'm thinking I'm going to do my friend's Battery Man deck because he sent it to me. And Phil gets what Phil wants some of the time. We haven't really I haven't bought any decks off him in a while now, so I got to at least make his deck profile. He's got a really sick Battery Man build for Edison format, so we're going to put that on the channel. I got a couple that I want to play on here. If you guys like it, let us know. If you guys know what day of the week you guys would like to see more Edison content in the future, let us know. This was a fun change of pace. I hope to have a mix of this and Speed Duel next week. I even found a card that, unless I've already covered it for Deck Master, I want to talk about Deck Master Mondays again just a little bit. And for right now, guys, I just want you guys to enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a good one. So till next time, see you later.